I used to think the only thing that could be stolen was money. Until my own brother, the baby I once held in my arms, faked leukemia just to trick me into handing over my credit card, not to survive, but to flex a Rolex on Instagram and cruise around in a rented BMW with his crypto bros. I didn't call the police. I chose something else, something colder, quieter, and unforgettable. If you think this is just another family story, you're dead wrong. Hit that subscribe button now, because you're about to step into a world of ruthless retaliation and chilling truths. I'm Camila Bennett. I'm 29, and I used to think being the responsible one in the family would protect me. I thought spreadsheets, well-balanced accounts, and smart investments could guard me from chaos. That control numbers order facts had always been my safety net. Until one Thursday night when that safety net was ripped away by someone I loved the most. It was late, already past 9 p.m. I just finished updating a client portfolio at my apartment in Seattle. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Through the glass, the city lights shimmered like scattered coins over soaked asphalt. That's when the buzzer rang. At first, I thought it was a delivery. I wasn't expecting anyone. But when I opened the door, my mother was standing there, soaked, her mascara streaked, holding her purse like a lifeline. "Mom," I blinked. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer at first. Just stepped in shivering and took off her coat like her body had been running on adrenaline for hours and just now remembered it was allowed to break down. I gave her a towel, guided her to the couch. She clutched it but didn't dry her face. Her hands trembled. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. Those 7 words were enough to tighten my gut. I sat beside her. "Tell me." She took a breath so shaky it sounded painful. "It's your brother, Eli." She nodded. Camilla, he's sick. They think it's leukemia." The word hit like a slap. "No," I said, but it was more reflex than denial. "They ran tests. He's been feeling tired, weak. At first we thought it was stress or the flu. But the doctor said it's early-stage leukemia. We caught it early, that's the good news." But her voice cracked the treatment. "The oncologist said the insurance won't cover the full regimen. There are gaps, big ones." I sat back. My mind went into that familiar place, numbers, policies, deductibles, coverage percentages. How much I asked? 78,000, she said. At least, up front. For the full cycle, the injections, the specialized meds, and time matters. I stared ahead the walls of my apartment, feeling suddenly too clean, too silent. "I wouldn't come to you like this if we had any other option," she said quickly. "But we've applied for a medical loan and it's being reviewed. I just need something to bridge us through the next 6 weeks." I didn't answer immediately. The air between us felt like frozen glass. "Camilla," she said, placing a hand on mine. "He's your brother." And just like that, I was 12 again, standing in the kitchen with Eli helping him put a Band-Aid on a scraped knee, while Mom tried to cook dinner between her 2 jobs. Back then, it was just us 3. Me, the one who stayed up late doing homework by flashlight. Eli, the kid with the wild laugh and too much curiosity. Mom trying to hold it all together. "He's your brother." I stood up and walked into my bedroom. From the drawer, I pulled out the gold credit card, my name engraved in cursive on the bottom right. It had taken me years to qualify for that card. Not because I spent lavishly, quite the opposite. I kept it pristine. Never carried a balance, transferred funds in only when I needed to. It was my badge of honor, my symbol of self-control. Now it felt heavier in my hand than ever before. Was this the moment it was meant for? I returned to the living room. Mom looked up at me with eyes too hopeful, too trusting. "This is only for Eli's treatment," I said, holding the card like it could still bite. "Not groceries, not flights, not anything else. I want receipts for every dollar." "Understood." "Of course," she said, taking the card like it was oxygen. "Every cent, I swear." She hugged me then, too tightly. Her breath smelled faintly of wine and something bitterer underneath. I didn't hug back right away, but eventually I did. Because I loved her. Because I loved Eli. Because love, I had been taught, meant sacrifice. As she left into the rain, clutching the gold card to her chest, I stood at the window watching the headlights of her car vanish into the gray night. Something inside me felt uneasy, a quiet tug of something I couldn't yet name. But I shook it off. I had done the right thing. The next few days passed in a blur of client calls, conference room presentations, spreadsheets, and emails. I buried myself in numbers and formulas and facts, the comfort of logic, the predictability of work, until the 7th night. I was at my desk wrapping up a late-night call with a high-net-worth client when I noticed a message notification flash on my phone. It was from Jesse, a senior partner from the firm. Just 3 words. "This your brother." Attached was a video link to Instagram. Curious, I clicked. And there he was, Eli, my younger brother, laughing as he stepped out of a black BMW convertible, the Pacific Ocean behind him. He wore aviator sunglasses and a Rolex on his wrist. The caption, "New City, New Chapter." Work hard, play harder. Blessed, hashtag crypto grind, hashtag BMW Ezen. My throat closed. I watched it again and again. A different post same day showed him in a high-rise hotel suite with a group of flashy guys opening champagne bottles over a laptop flashing green numbers. Ethereum, Solana, charts. Another video showed him in a designer store, the camera angled down as he unboxed the Rolex. A limited edition model I recognized. 10,000 minimum if it's real, probably more. I scrolled faster. First-class boarding passes. A dinner at a rooftop restaurant in LA. Club bottle service. I stopped breathing. My ears rang. My hands went ice cold. This wasn't cancer. This wasn't chemo. This was theft. This was betrayal. I closed my laptop slowly. The room felt like it was tilting. For a second, I thought I might throw up. I walked to the window. Seattle rain kept falling like it always had. The world hadn't changed, but mine had, because I knew deep in my chest, down to my bones, that Eli wasn't sick. And my mother, she knew. She had to. She looked me in the eye. She cried. She lied. And I had given her the key to ruin me. The card, my trust. It was just the beginning, and I hadn't even begun to fight back. I didn't confront them right away. That's the first thing I need you to understand. The moment I saw that video, the BMW, the Rolex, the smug laugh, I didn't rage. I didn't even cry. I just disconnected. Something in me froze and went inward. Like the part of me that used to believe in family just quietly walked out the door and didn't say goodbye. I told myself it could still be a misunderstanding. Maybe Eli borrowed the car from a friend. Maybe the Rolex was fake. Maybe maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe he really was sick and just trying to live before chemo started. Some desperate bucket list unraveling before his body gave out. So I didn't scream. I watched, I waited, and I started digging. His Instagram was just the tip of the iceberg. On TikTok, there were short clips tagged with hashtag CryptoSquad and hashtag exit liquidity Eli doing those obnoxious little dances while graphs exploded behind him. One video had him flashing stacks of money while a guy in the background shouted, "We're all gonna make it, baby." Another post had a caption that read, "No more broke days. Invest in yourself. Then invest in Solana." Hashtag FTX who hashtag had next gen wealth. I didn't know what half the terms meant, but I knew what they didn't mean. They didn't mean cancer. They didn't mean chemo. They didn't mean sleepless nights under hospital lights or hair falling out in handfuls or an oncologist's soft voice explaining side effects. They meant profit. They meant greed. They meant betrayal. The next morning, I opened the folder of medical documents Mom had shown me when she begged for the card. I had scanned them that night out of habit, really not suspicion. Now I opened them again with a different set of eyes. I zoomed in. The letterhead looked off. Northwest Oncology Group was printed at the top of the diagnosis letter, but the font didn't match the one used on the second page, the supposed treatment plan. Not just a slight variation, but completely different typefaces. The doctor's signature was a sloppy scrawl that looked almost traced. I searched for the name Dr. Michael Reinhardt. There was no record of him in the Washington State Medical Board database. None. No LinkedIn, no office number, no health portal. My pulse quickened. I cross-referenced the hospital's address listed on the form. It didn't lead to a cancer center. It led to a FedEx printing store. That was the moment I stopped rationalizing. My mother hadn't just gotten desperate. She'd orchestrated this. She'd typed that letter, or she'd had someone else do it. Either way, this wasn't panic. This wasn't a cry for help. This was a con. I stared at the documents until the words blurred into static. Then I shut my laptop, picked up my phone, and called her. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was bright, rehearsed. "Camila, hi, sweetheart. I was just about to call you, actually. The doctor said Eli might be eligible for a clinical trial next month. We're hopeful." I didn't reply. "Camila, I've been reviewing the documents you gave me," I said, keeping my voice even. "There are some inconsistencies I want to ask you about." A pause. Then, "What do you mean Dr. Michael Reinhardt doesn't exist in any physician directory? The address you listed is a FedEx store. The hospital doesn't have a record of Eli being treated." Silence. Not even breathing. I waited. Finally, she spoke. "Camila, I don't appreciate this tone. Are you saying you don't believe me? I'm saying the paperwork is fake, and I want to know why." Her voice turned icy. "After everything I've done for this family, after raising you alone, working 2 jobs, this isn't about the past. This is about right now. This is about lying to me and using my money." More silence. Then, "You always think you're better than us, don't you? With your little spreadsheets and your savings accounts. I came to you because we needed help. You gave it. Now you want to interrogate me like I'm some criminal." I exhaled slowly, trying not to let her bait me. "I just want the truth." Her tone hardened further. So you don't trust your own mother now? I trusted you with everything, I said quietly. That card was everything I've worked for. Every night I stayed late, every raise, every penny I saved. I gave it to you because I believed Eli was dying. She scoffed. Drama, that's what this is. You always did have a flair for it. Then tell me the truth, I said. Right now, just say it. She didn't. The silence said enough. And in that silence, something inside me finally shifted. The part of me that kept hoping this was all just a mistake, some elaborate misunderstanding, that part curled up and died. I was no longer her daughter. I was no longer a sister. I was a mark, a target, a walking credit limit. She hung up. Just like that. I stared at the phone in my hand, then set it down carefully on the counter like it might explode. A strange clinical numbness spread through me. She was my mother. She'd kissed my forehead when I had the flu, made birthday cupcakes with crooked candles. She used to sing Aretha Franklin off-key while folding laundry. She cried when I got my scholarship letter. She kept my kindergarten drawings in a box labeled Camilla's masterpieces, but that woman didn't exist anymore. Maybe she never had. Or maybe somewhere along the way she'd decided survival was more important than truth. That wealth mattered more than honesty, and that love could be weaponized to open wallets. It wasn't cancer. It was ambition. It wasn't desperation. It was entitlement. I turned off the lights and stood in the dark for a while, listening to the rain, my heart pounding like a distant war drum in my chest. I whispered to no one. They didn't break my trust, they burned it, and now I have nothing left to lose. There's a particular silence that falls when betrayal sinks in, not loud, not even angry, but sterile, hollow, like the air is holding its breath, waiting for you to decide what kind of person you'll be after. I didn't rage, I planned. Because this time the hurt didn't come from strangers, it came from home. And I knew something now: when the betrayal is personal, the revenge must be surgical. So I didn't post about it, didn't confront them again, didn't call anyone to cry into the phone. Instead, I found someone. His name was Luke Harmon, former financial crimes investigator turned private consultant. He didn't advertise. I found him through a referral buried inside a fintech legal brief, a ghost by design. We met at a quiet cafe in Capitol Hill, one where the Wi-Fi was intentionally weak and the coffee intentionally strong. He was in his late 40s, wore a black raincoat even indoors, and spoke like every word cost him something. I handed him a folder. My mother and my brother. They stole from me. I need to know where the money went. He didn't ask if I was sure. He asked for access. 2 hours later, I gave him everything: credit card statements, screenshots of Eli's social media, the fraudulent medical papers, and the transaction logs. Start with this, I said. There's a pattern, I can feel it, I just can't see it yet. He nodded once. I'll need 3 days, don't interfere, don't warn them, and don't let them know I exist. I agreed. And the silence returned my companion now. The next 72 hours crawled like a bad fever. I went to work, attended meetings, smiled when I needed to, nodded when expected. But my mind was elsewhere, playing timelines, tracing money, wondering how many layers deep the lie went. On the third morning, Luke called. Meet me, same place, bring no one. I was there in 20 minutes. He already had coffee waiting, black, no sugar. He slid a thin manila envelope across the table. Your family has been busy. I opened it. The first page was a breakdown. My credit card had been used to buy several digital consulting packages from a merchant called NXTI Invest Global. The name sounded innocuous enough, but Luke had followed the trail. NXTI Invest, he said, is a front. It's tied to a crypto exchange called Hexavault based in Monterrey, Mexico. Unregulated, not licensed, and very much illegal under U.S. financial law. The charges I saw, $9,800, $14,500, another $22,300, had all been funneled through NXTI Invest and routed into Hexavault wallets within 48 hours. Is there any chance they didn't know? I asked. Luke gave me a look. They registered 2 personal wallets under their real names. He tapped a document. Eli Bennett, wallet ID Hexvault, ELI89, Catherine Bennett, wallet ID Kathy.beltx.crypto. It's not even subtle, he said. They weren't hiding from you. They were counting on you, never looking. I turned the pages slowly. There were transaction screenshots, wallet addresses, and detailed logs showing the funds entering the wallets and then being transferred again into something called Cascade Pool. What's Cascade Pool? A high-yield staking group on the Hexavault platform, he said. Basically a get-rich-quick program. The kind where your money disappears overnight and they tell you it's volatility. I swallowed. My fingers clenched the edge of the page. There's more, Luke added. I looked up. They're listed under the VIP investor list. I hacked a private access point through an admin backend. Only 300 users are considered Tier 1. Catherine and Eli Bennett are both on it. He pulled out a final sheet, a digital document titled Investor Privilege Agreement, VIP Access Level 1. It included benefits priority, withdrawal access to Betacoin pools, and, get this, referral commissions of 15% per incoming wallet. My throat burned. They got bonuses for getting others to invest. Luke nodded. There's a good chance your card wasn't just used for them. They probably recruited other family members, friends. It's a full-blown scam disguised as a startup opportunity. I stared at Eli's username again, Eli89. He wasn't dying, he was building a brand. And he was using my name, my finances, to bankroll the launch. I leaned back, the cafe spinning around me in slow, cruel motion. How much, I whispered. Luke didn't blink. Every penny of the credit card you gave them, nearly $87,000, has been withdrawn, converted into crypto, and now sits in a decentralized wallet based in South America. That wallet isn't in their name, but it's been accessed 11 times from an IP address at your mother's home. And the paper trail solid, documented, all logged. But it won't help you get it back. Hexavault isn't real. It's a shell. They'll be gone in 6 months tops, and your mother and brother will be left holding the bag with a bunch of meaningless tokens and angry referrals. So they didn't just rob me, I said quietly. They made themselves pawns in a bigger scam. Willing pawns, he said. No one joins a criminal pyramid by accident. Not this deep. I looked at the photos, Eli beaming in front of a Lambo rental. Mom posing with a branded jacket that read Crypto Queen, and something in me gave way. Not rage, not grief. Resolve. They used me, I said. They built a lie around my compassion. They used cancer to sell themselves a fantasy. And they think I'll just stay quiet. Luke nodded. What do you want to do? I stared out the window. The rain was back again, sliding down the glass like it had nowhere else to go. I want them to feel it, I said. Not revenge, not yet. I want them to see exactly how deep this goes. And then I want them to lose everything they think they've gained. Luke smiled. It was the closest thing to warmth I'd seen from him. Then we build the evidence file, he said. Start to finish. You'll have everything you need: paper trails, timelines, screenshots, IP logs, enough to make a federal agent salivate. And after that, he sipped his coffee. After that, you decide if you burn them, or if you use this to force their hand. I closed the folder. My hands were shaking, but not with fear, with clarity. I finally understood what I had to do. They wanted to build a fake future on a foundation of stolen trust. I was going to flip that foundation and let them feel the collapse. The drive to my parents' house was silent, not quiet silent. The kind of silence that suffocates. I didn't play music. I didn't make a call. I didn't even glance at the GPS I knew by heart. My phone sat on the passenger seat, dark and still. Beside it, a manila folder packed with printed screenshots, fake medical documents, and digital transaction logs. And in my jacket pocket, a discreet audio recorder, voice-activated high-sensitivity mic, fully charged. This wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be evidence. The neighborhood hadn't changed. Same cul-de-sac, same rose bushes my dad trimmed every Saturday morning, same chipped mailbox I offered to replace years ago but never did. The house looks smaller now, or maybe I'd grown too far away from it. I parked by the curb. My heart was steady, my breathing calm. But my fingers trembled as I stepped onto the porch and rang the bell. Footsteps. Then the door swung open. Mom. She smiled too fast, too wide. Camila, what a surprise, honey. Come in. She stepped aside, already turning toward the kitchen. Dinner's almost ready. Eli's here too. You caught us on a good night. Good night. I stepped in. The house smelled like pot roast and rosemary. Warm, familiar, deceiving. Eli was lounging on the couch, scrolling on his phone. His hair was gelled. He was wearing Yeezys. He looked up, smirked. Yo, you're alive. I didn't answer. Just sat down on the armchair across from him. Mom returned, wiping her hands on a towel. You look tired. Long day. I pulled out the recorder and set it on the coffee table. Both of them froze for a second. I'm recording this, I said, voice steady. Don't bother asking why. Mom blinked. Camilla, what I want to give you a chance to tell the truth. One chance. After that, it's evidence. Eli scoffed. Jesus, what are you, a cop now? Sit, I said. He stayed on the couch, but his posture shifted. Defensive. Mom sat on the edge of the coffee table. Camilla, she said gently, what is going on? I took out the folder and laid it flat on my lap. You told me Eli was dying. I never said you told me he had leukemia. You cried in my living room. You said there was no time. You handed me forged documents. You used my compassion like a debit card. And now I know where that money went. Their faces didn't register guilt, just discomfort, like I'd ruined the mood. Camilla, Mom said carefully, you have to understand. No, I snapped. You have to understand. That card was tied to my name, my credit, my future. That money was meant to save someone's life, not launch your crypto startup. It wasn't just about us, she said. It was for the family, for Eli's future, for our future. Really, I opened the folder and held up a printed screenshot. Eli holding a bottle of champagne on a rooftop in LA. Because this doesn't look like chemotherapy to me. Eli finally spoke. Look, okay, I didn't mean to scam you or whatever, but this thing, this coin, it's gonna explode. Cascade Pool is about to list on major exchanges. We're early investors. He said it like he was pitching me a dream, not defending a crime. You used my name to fund a fraud, I said, and you didn't even flinch. Mom stood. Camilla, we needed an opportunity. You're always so put together with your job and your salary and your condo. Do you know what it feels like to be drowning in bills while watching your daughter succeed? You left us behind? I laughed. It was hollow. I left, you lied to me. You invented a terminal illness and exploited my empathy. I was desperate, she said, eyes shining. We just needed one break. You had a break, I hissed. You had me. A silence stretched between us. Eli looked at the floor, now jaw tense. I took the fake medical report from the folder and threw it onto the coffee table. This is Photoshop. The address is a FedEx store. Dr. Reinhardt doesn't exist. Mom's eyes flicked toward the paper like it might catch fire. Where's Dad? I asked, suddenly looking toward the hallway. She blinked. He's resting. Does he know? My voice dropped. Did you tell him he doesn't need to? Does he know? That's when I saw him. He'd come to the edge of the hallway, barefoot, wearing a worn flannel shirt, confused. My father, Thomas Bennett. Know what he asked softly? Mom turned to him too quickly. Nothing, honey. It's just a misunderstanding. I was just Dad, I cut in. Please sit down. He stepped into the room, slowly cautious. The energy had shifted. The tension wasn't just thick, it was suffocating. Camilla, he said gently, what's going on? I handed him the folder. Just read, I said. Page 3. Start there. He opened it with the weariness of someone who already knew he wouldn't like what he saw. It took him 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes, no one breathed. Then he looked up, his face pale, wrinkled. His voice when it came was brittle. Catherine, he said to my mother, is this true? She took a step toward him. Thomas, listen, is it true? She faltered. I needed to make it work. You were tired, and Eli, he needed something to believe in. We all did. I didn't think it would go this far. So you lied, he said softly. Tears welled in her eyes. You've been so detached, Thomas. I didn't want to put this burden on you. It's not a burden, he said, voice cracking. It's betrayal. He looked at me then, and for a second I saw it, the shame, the grief, the fear of a man realizing the life he built was built on sand. I didn't know, Camilla, he said. I swear to you, I know, I replied, because if he had known, I don't think he'd still be standing. Eli tried again. Dad, it's not like we killed someone. I mean, yeah, we borrowed some money you stole. I shouted. Stop calling it anything else. You stole, you lied. You pretended to be dying Eli. You made me believe I was saving you when all you were doing was cashing in on my loyalty. He flinched but didn't apologize. Mom collapsed onto the couch. You don't understand what it's like to feel helpless, watching everyone else succeed while you just rot. No, I said coldly. You don't understand what it's like to be used by the people who are supposed to protect you. Another silence. This one heavier than the last. Dad looked at the documents again, his hand shaking. You used her name. For a crypto scam? It wasn't supposed to be a scam, Mom whispered. It was supposed to be our way out. Out of what he snapped. Out of decency, I stood. I didn't come here for apologies, I said. I came here to give you one last chance to come clean. And then what? Eli spat. You going to the police? No, I said. Not yet. But I've documented everything. And the moment I get another transaction alert, the next person I talk to is an investigator from the IRS. Or maybe the press. I haven't decided. Eli paled. Mom tried to stand, but her legs gave out and she fell back down. Please, Camilla, don't destroy the family. I stared at her. You already did. And then I walked out. The pot roast was still warm on the stove. The door slammed shut behind me like a gavel. Justice was coming, and I would be its witness. The morning after the confrontation was quieter than any I could remember. No phone calls, no messages. Not even one of those vague, let's talk texts from Mom that usually came after every argument. This time the silence was heavy, and I could feel the aftershocks already vibrating beneath the surface. It didn't take long for the first one to hit. At 9:17 a.m., Dad called me. His voice sounded like he hadn't slept. Camilla, he said. Can you meet me at the bank? I was already grabbing my keys. When I arrived, he was standing outside the First Sound Credit Union branch on 56th, wearing the same flannel shirt from last night. His eyes were puffy, his hands buried deep in his coat pockets. We walked in together. I didn't ask questions. Neither did he. The banker, a polite woman in her early 30s, smiled and led us to a glass-walled office. She pulled up his account, asked the usual verification questions, and then tilted the monitor toward him. He froze. "Can you explain these withdrawals?" he asked. The woman hesitated. "It looks like a series of wire transfers to a private merchant account, registered under your wife's name." He blinked. "How much?" She adjusted her glasses. "Over the last 90 days, the total is approximately $42,000. Dad didn't move. Not a twitch. Then, barely audible, "I didn't authorize any of it." She nodded slowly, sensing the gravity. "We can start a fraud report immediately. But since it was initiated under a shared household login, the investigation might take time." He stared at the screen, and then very softly he said, "I'd like to freeze all accounts with my name on them. Today." She hesitated. "That'll include joint checking your retirement fund." "All of it," he said. He signed the paperwork in silence. Then he walked out of the bank without saying a word to me. We didn't talk until we were standing beside our cars. He rubbed the back of his neck like a man trying to erase the last hour from his skin. "She didn't just lie to you," he said. "She drained everything I'd saved." I nodded. He looked at me, eyes suddenly bright with something else, shame. "I let it happen, didn't I?" "No," I said gently. "You believed someone you loved." His hands trembled. "That's the part that hurts." And then he left. I stood in the parking lot watching his car disappear down the street. And I knew this wasn't just financial collapse. This was the implosion of a family that had been crumbling for years. The difference now was someone finally turned on the light. Back at the house, things were unraveling in real time. Eli was pacing the living room phone glued to his ear. "No, bro, listen, it's not what it looks like. Just tell them I'm good for it. I'm not defaulting. The coin's just, it's in a dip. Give me 48 hours. No, listen, just..." He looked up and froze when he saw me walk in. He pulled the phone away, held up a hand like I was a cop busting a deal. "I got this," he said quickly. "It's fine." I said nothing. Just walked past him and into the kitchen where Mom sat at the table, red-eyed, wearing yesterday's clothes. She looked up like she'd been waiting for a verdict. "I talked to your father," I said. Tears welled immediately. "Camilla, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I just needed a little time. Just a window. One break. You drained his retirement. I was going to pay it back with what I snapped. Imaginary coin profits, referral bonuses from people you tricked into investing." She stood abruptly, chair scraping behind her. "Don't talk to me like that. I am your mother." "No," I said coldly. "You were. But the woman who looked me in the eye and told me my brother was dying doesn't get that title anymore." Her lip trembled. "You don't understand. I understand perfectly," I said, stepping closer. "You were willing to destroy everything just to keep up appearances, to gamble with our names, our money, our lives. For what? A dream of being rich. You burned your family down for smoke." Eli barged in, still clutching his phone. "They're freezing my wallet," he shouted. "You happy now? You killed the deal. Cascades pulling VIP access. I had leverage, Camilla. We were this close. Close to what I turned, eyes blazing. To prison, to dragging every idiot who trusted you down with you. You faked cancer. You lied. You stole." He pointed a finger. "You think you're some righteous crusader because you caught us? You're just bitter we finally found something you didn't control." "Control," I laughed bitterly. "You're spiraling, Eli, and I'm the only reason you're not in handcuffs right now." He went quiet. Mom stepped between us, pleading. "Camilla, please, give us a week, just one more week. Let us fix this. We'll repay it. I'll talk to your father. I'll sell the house." "It's not your house anymore," I said. That stopped her. "What, Dad's freezing everything, joint accounts, shared property. He's already at the bank. There's nothing left for you to spend." She staggered backward like I'd slapped her. Eli looked stunned. "He wouldn't. He can't? He just did?" They were silent. I reached into my bag and pulled out a flash drive, tossing it onto the table. "What's that?" Mom asked. "Everything I said. Screenshots, wire logs, wallet IDs, names of people you recruited into the scheme. Every dollar stolen. Every lie told." She stared at it like it might bite her. "I haven't sent it to the authorities," I said. "Yet." She opened her mouth. "Don't, I warned. You don't get to talk now. You get to listen." I stepped toward her. "This isn't just about money. This was my trust, my future, my life, and you broke it for greed." She whispered, "I was trying to help Eli." "No," I cut her off. "You were trying to make him feel powerful. You treated him like a prince and made me the bank." Eli turned away, jaw clenched. "I haven't called the police," I repeated, "but this is your only grace period. One more transfer, one more post, one more lie and it's over." They didn't speak. Leave, I said. What? Mom's voice cracked. Leave this house, tonight. Dad will need time, space. I'll help him file for legal separation, if you're still here when he gets home. Eli snapped. You're kicking out your own family. You stopped being family the moment you forged leukemia. Silence. Long. Awful. Mom's lip trembled. Where would we even go? You should have thought about that before you burned the only safe place you had. I walked to the front door and held it open. It took them 7 minutes to pack. No yelling, no fighting, just slow, bitter silence. As Eli passed me dragging a duffel bag and still clutching his phone, he muttered, "You think you won, but all you did was ruin everything." I stared at him. "No," I said. "You ruined it the day you sold your soul for a token." They left. And for the first time in years, the house was still. I walked to the living room. Dad's recliner was empty. The sunlight hit the side of the chair just right, casting long shadows across the carpet. And there in that room where we used to open Christmas presents and eat microwaved lasagna on lazy Sundays, I sat down in the silence they left behind. The flash drive still on the table, the betrayal still fresh in the air, and the war was just beginning. I didn't sleep the night they left, not a single minute. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun came up, watching the coffee in my mug go cold, staring at the flash drive like it was a detonator. One click and I could blow the whole thing open, end it, send everything to the authorities and let the system do what it was built to do. But a part of me knew that justice, at least in the traditional sense, might never feel like enough. This wasn't just about crime. This was about trust betrayal that rewired the definition of family in my body. They hadn't just stolen money. They'd stolen a part of me I could never get back. But I still had a say in how the story ended. So the next morning, I made a call. 2 hours later, I sat in a glass-walled conference room on the 26th floor of an office tower in downtown Seattle. Across from me sat Helena Price, one of the most respected financial litigation attorneys on the West Coast. Gray blazer, black stilettos, and a look in her eyes that told you she could peel skin with words. I laid everything out: the credit card theft, the falsified medical documents, the crypto laundering, the wire transfers, and the personal tie that made it all worse. When I was done, she didn't speak right away. Then she leaned forward, laced her fingers, and said, "They're family." I nodded. She sat back in her chair. "That makes this uglier and cleaner, oddly enough." "Cleaner?" She pulled out a legal pad. "You've done half the work already. You've preserved evidence, documented communications, traced funds. You'd be surprised how many people come to me with only feelings. You have facts. And legally, she said you have a strong case for felony financial fraud, misuse of credit instruments, and conspiracy to defraud. If you want to press criminal charges, the DA would be interested." I stayed quiet. "But that's not why you're here, is it?" I shook my head. "I want leverage." Helena's lips curved. Not a smile, something sharper. "I see. You don't want to bury them. You want them to dig their own graves. With purpose." "Exactly." She tapped her pen. "Then you force their hand. Civil leverage, not criminal. Threaten charges but offer terms. Get them to relinquish the assets voluntarily. If they don't, you prosecute. If they do, you own the ending." She paused. "But don't let them walk away unscathed. Don't let them think they can walk through your boundaries and just apologize later." I nodded, jaw clenched. "What would that agreement look like?" I asked. Helena didn't hesitate. "We'll draft a private restitution agreement. You demand full access and ownership transfer of all crypto wallets' assets and any residual profits from the scam. All of it. In return, you agree not to pursue criminal charges or release the evidence to federal investigators, at least not immediately. And what happens to the money? That's your call." I knew what I wanted. "I want it donated," I said, "to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation, every last cent." Helena raised an eyebrow. "Poetic." "No," I said quietly. "It's correctional." She nodded once. "I'll have the paperwork drafted within 48 hours. And Camilla, yeah, don't give them more than one chance to sign." 2 days later, I stood inside a notary office in Bellevue. A plain room with off-white walls, a glass table, and a witness from Helena's team seated silently in the corner. There was no fanfare, no dramatics, just a thick stack of paper between 2 chairs and 2 pens waiting on top. Mom arrived first. Her eyes were red like she hadn't slept either. She wore a gray cardigan and makeup she hadn't quite managed to finish applying. Her lips were trembling before she even sat down. She didn't say hello. She didn't have to. She saw the documents and understood. Then Eli came in late naturally. Hoodie, dark jeans, face hard with performative anger. He slumped into the chair like he was auditioning for defiance. "Is this even legal?" he muttered. Helena, seated beside me, responded without looking up. "It's enforceable, which is more important." The notary cleared his throat and the air in the room shrank. I spoke first. "This is a restitution agreement. You'll transfer all existing crypto wallets, assets, referral bonuses, and coin-related holdings into a dedicated charitable escrow fund monitored by Helena's office. That fund will be donated in full to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation in your names, not mine. Eli scoffed. You want us to brag about giving it away? No, I said calmly. I want you to own it. The irony, the shame, the clarity. Every time your name appears on that ledger, I want you to remember how you got it there. And if we don't sign, Mom whispered. Helena looked up now. Then Ms. Bennett will submit a formal complaint to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, file a felony fraud report with the state attorney, and forward all evidence to the IRS. Eli paled. You'd really ruin our lives like that, he asked. I stared at him. You already ruined mine. He looked away. Mom reached for the pen. Her hands shook. Camilla, she said, eyes glossy, please. I never meant for it to spiral this far. I didn't respond. You have to believe me, she continued. It wasn't just greed, it was fear. We were drowning. You faked cancer, I said, voice low. You sold your soul for a percentage bonus. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She picked up the pen. Her signature was shaky but legible. Then she slid the document across the table to Eli. He stared at it, didn't move. Helena tapped the pen. You've already been named in 3 separate wallet transactions. If this escalates, you'll be in front of a grand jury by fall. Your choice. He grabbed the pen, pressed it to the paper, paused, then slammed it down. Fine, he muttered. Congratulations, Camilla, you won. I looked at him. This isn't a win, this is a correction. He stood abruptly, knocking his chair back, and stormed out of the room. Mom stayed a moment longer. She wiped her eyes. Her voice cracked. I lost you, didn't I? I didn't answer. Because some losses don't need confirmation. They're already too loud to ignore. She left quietly. Helena picked up the documents and passed them to her associate. We'll start the transfer process today, she said. You'll get confirmation within 72 hours. I nodded, but my chest didn't feel lighter. Not yet. On the ride home, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt hollow, like the part of me that wanted justice had finally eaten something too heavy to digest. But I knew I'd done the right thing. Sometimes healing looks like paperwork and legal signatures. Sometimes justice wears a blazer instead of a badge. And sometimes, most painfully, it's the people you love that teach you how to fight the hardest. It started with a leak. A week after the restitution agreement was signed, I got a call from Helena's assistant. Her voice clipped and tense. We've got a breach. A journalist reached out with details they shouldn't know. One of your firm's junior staffers, someone who had access to the file, passed information to a tech and finance reporter at Northwest Tribune. I didn't speak, not because I didn't care, but because I already knew what was coming. You'll want to prepare, she added quietly. It's going to hit hard, and it did. By morning, it was everywhere. Crypto betrayal, Seattle woman scammed by her own mother and brother using faked cancer diagnosis. The article didn't name me directly, at least not at first, but it didn't need to. There were enough breadcrumbs. An anonymous source close to the legal proceedings confirmed that the restitution was structured through charitable donation, that the crypto accounts were connected to a fraudulent diagnosis, and that the victim refused to press charges for personal reasons. By noon, I couldn't open my inbox without seeing the subject line scream, "Comment on viral story." We'd love to hear your side. Morning talk show request exclusive slot available. My phone was worse. Rings, buzzes, voicemails I didn't listen to. DMs from strangers, messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, high school acquaintances suddenly crawling out of the woodwork offering support, or worse, asking for details. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I opened my laptop, drafted a single paragraph, and posted it on my personal site, the one I used for professional speaking events and finance workshops. Family is where we are born, but not always where we belong. I will not speak publicly beyond this. Betrayal doesn't begin with theft. It begins the moment trust is twisted into currency. I did what I needed to reclaim myself, and I am done explaining why. Camilla Bennett. I turned off comments, shut down the contact form, and waited. But silence wasn't coming this time. Social media detonated. Hashtags began trending. Crypto betrayal, hashtag blood is not always family, Camilla Bennett. People reposted the Tribune article with their own captions, their own rage, their own wounds. In less than 24 hours, thousands of people, mostly women, started sharing eerily similar stories. My brother took my inheritance and bought NFTs. My cousin scammed me out of my college fund to start a YouTube crypto channel. My mom opened a credit card in my name when I was 15. I found out at 29. The comment sections turned into confessionals. Reddit threads dissected every paragraph of the article, some sympathetic, others cruel. Some questioned why I hadn't pressed charges. Some praised me for rising above. Others demanded I go public, give interviews, speak on the record. I didn't do any of it. Helena called me 3 times in 2 days. You could use this, she said. We can reframe you as a voice for financial survivors. We could land you a feature in Forbes. No, I said, not now. You're being painted into a corner. Then let them paint. I'm not their subject. She backed off, for now. But the story had already taken on a life of its own. What I didn't expect, what caught me completely off guard, was what happened next. The Pediatric Cancer Foundation released a statement. We are deeply grateful for a recent anonymous donation totaling $76,000 transferred through decentralized channels. While the donor has requested to remain unnamed, we want to acknowledge that this gift will directly fund 3 full cycles of treatment for pediatric leukemia patients in need. 3 children, real children, living, breathing, fighting children were going to get treatment because of that money, because of the lie, because of the truth, because I chose to redirect the worst thing that had ever happened to me into something useful. I sat on the floor of my apartment reading that press release over and over, tears streaking my cheeks. And then came the message from Eli. A single text. Was that really from our wallets? I didn't reply. He followed up, you didn't have to give it all away. Still, I said nothing. Because what do you say to someone who thinks redemption is optional? That night, a local reporter showed up outside my building. I don't know how she found my address, but there she was, camera crew in tow, microphone ready, makeup flawless under studio lights. I watched from behind the blinds as she looked directly at my apartment window and said into the camera, we're standing outside the home of Camilla Bennett, the woman at the center of what many are calling the crypto betrayal of the year. While she has declined multiple interview requests, the public remains fascinated by her silence. I closed the blinds. I didn't owe them anything. The next morning, my photo was on the front page of 3 digital outlets. 2 showed my high school yearbook picture. The third had managed to find a smiling image of me from a corporate event standing beside a client, unaware that one day that image would be used as a symbol of grace under fire. Colleagues from work started treating me differently. Some looked at me like I was fragile, others like I was famous. Neither felt real. One intern avoided eye contact completely. Another whispered, she's the one whose mom stole from her. I felt like a character in a movie I hadn't auditioned for. But beneath the chaos, something unexpected happened. People began reaching out not to gawk, but to connect. A woman from Georgia emailed me, your story gave me the courage to press charges against my brother. He's been using my SSN for 3 years. I finally filed the paperwork yesterday. A man in Toronto wrote my mom took out a second mortgage without telling me. I didn't think I could ever confront her. After reading your story, I scheduled the conversation. I don't know if it'll fix things, but I'm not staying silent anymore. Story after story. Pain meeting pain, hurt recognizing hurt. It didn't heal me, not instantly, but it reminded me I wasn't alone. And maybe that mattered more than a headline ever could. Helena called again. This is your moment, she said. You could do a podcast, a column, a book. People want to hear from you. No, I said again, but why? I paused. Then said, because I'm still bleeding, and you don't tour a battlefield while the smoke's still rising. Silence. Then surprisingly, Helena said, okay. But if you ever change your mind, I'll make sure your voice is yours, not theirs. I believed her, but I wasn't ready. That week, I turned down 3 national talk shows, declined a documentary pitch, blocked 3 influencers who wanted to collaborate on content. I went to work, came home, watered my plants, cooked simple meals, walked to the park, took deep breaths. And for the first time in months, no one asked me for money, or trust, or forgiveness. They just let me be. And that was enough. The living room was quiet in a way that felt ceremonial. Camilla sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap, the silence pressing against her shoulders. Across from her, her father adjusted his reading glasses and cleared his throat, not because he was ready to speak, but because he was trying to summon the courage to. Her mother sat beside him, back straight, eyes fixed on a spot above the mantel. There was no fire in the fireplace, no warmth in the air, just cold reckoning. Eli wasn't there yet, and maybe that was fitting. I thought her father finally said that maybe we'd lost the right to do this. Camilla didn't answer. She was waiting. He looked at his wife, not angrily, not with blame, but like someone staring down a long, quiet regret. I need to say something, he said, to both of you. Her mother shifted in her seat, visibly uncomfortable. He looked back at Camilla. I knew he began softly. Not about the scam, not about the fake cancer, but I knew something was wrong a long time ago. And I looked away. Camilla blinked. When he leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Back when you were 12, he said, your mother borrowed from your college fund to pay off her credit cards. She told me she'd pay it back in 6 months. I said nothing, because I didn't want to fight. Camilla's breath hitched. Her mother didn't deny it. I thought it was a one-time thing, but it wasn't. I watched the way she manipulated, justified, twisted things to keep control of money that wasn't hers, and I let her, because I told myself she was doing it for the family. He looked down at his hands. I was wrong. Her mother finally spoke, voice sharp. You never said anything then. I'm saying it now, he said quietly. Silence again. Then the front door opened. Eli walked in wearing a rumpled fast food hoodie and the kind of fatigue that comes from being awake for days without purpose. He paused when he saw them all sitting there, something like guilt or maybe annoyance flickering in his eyes. What is this? He asked. A conversation, their father said. Eli gave a scoff. Another one. No, Camilla said. The only one that matters. He flopped onto the armrest of a chair, arms crossed. Say what you need to say. Their father looked at him. You're cut off. Eli laughed. You haven't given me a dime since I turned 20. Not publicly, he said. But your mother's been covering your rent, sending you crypto, paying off your credit cards under my name. Eli's smirk faded. Starting tomorrow, he continued, that stops. You want a place to live, you get a job? You want food, you earn it. There will be no more soft landings for you, Eli. Not from me. You think working at a gas station makes me a failure? No, he said. But believing you're above it does. Eli stood abruptly. This is all your fault, he snapped at Camilla. You made everything public. You turned us into a circus. I kept it private, she said. You're the one who put your lies on social media. He turned to their mother. Are you just gonna let this happen? She looked tired, smaller than she had before. I already signed the papers, she whispered. Eli looked between them, then let out a hollow laugh. You're all so righteous, he said. Like you've never done anything wrong. Their father stood. I have, he said. That's what this is about, owning it. And that was when the argument ended, not with yelling or doors slamming, but with Eli leaving the house without another word, without looking back. It would be days before they heard from him again. Camila didn't talk much after that night. She went back to work. Managed spreadsheets, met clients, approved investment reports. She smiled when appropriate, laughed when required, but inside a quiet storm still lingered. It hadn't passed yet, it was just paused. That weekend, she took a train to Portland. No one knew why, not even her assistant. She just needed to get out of the city. The headlines were fading, but the whispers in hallways hadn't. She needed to breathe. In Portland, she visited a small pediatric ward at a local hospital, one of the beneficiary sites of the donation. There she met a child named Ava, 8 years old, leukemia, tiny arms but fierce eyes. She reminded Camilla of a photo of herself as a child back before the world felt so calculated. Camilla didn't tell Ava who she was. She simply brought books, puzzles, and snacks. She stayed for an hour, then 2. By the 3rd hour, she found herself laughing, not because she forgot everything, but because Ava didn't know any of it. To Ava, she was just a nice lady with good cookies and a decent sense of humor. Before she left, she quietly asked the hospital accountant if there were any patients whose insurance hadn't kicked in yet, any urgent cases waiting for funding. There was one, a boy named Mateo, 6 years old, recently diagnosed. Parents had applied for assistance, but it would take weeks. Camilla didn't hesitate. Use my name, she said. Cover it now. But, are you sure, the accountant asked? She nodded. I don't need another headline, she said. I just need to do something that matters. Back in Seattle, Eli wasn't doing well. He bounced between odd jobs, none stable, none respected. At a gas station off Route 99, he was seen wiping windows one day, sweeping the lot the next. Gone were the Rolex posts, the motivational crypto memes. His online presence went dark. He couch surfed, borrowed money from people who stopped answering. He tried to reach out to his mother again, but she wouldn't answer. Their father had blocked him. He was alone for the first time in years, and it showed. One evening, he wandered into a 24-hour diner, slumped in a booth, and ordered nothing. Just stared at a greasy menu for half an hour. The TV above the counter was showing a segment from a public access news channel. The words hit him like a brick. Thanks to an anonymous donor, the Northwest Pediatric Cancer Fund has reached a new milestone, over $1.5 million raised in 2023 alone. The woman behind this movement has never spoken publicly, but those who know her describe her as private, fierce, and forgiving. The screen showed footage of the hospital, doctors, nurses, children, and then briefly a side shot of Camilla not speaking, just helping a child build a block tower. Eli froze. His eyes welled. Not because he wanted forgiveness, but because for the first time he saw what real legacy looked like. It wasn't flashy cars. It wasn't crypto gains. It was impact. And he had none. That night, he sat outside the gas station long after his shift ended. On the curb, Hoodie pulled low phone in hand. He opened Camilla's website, read her words again. Betrayal doesn't begin with theft. It begins the moment trust is twisted into currency. He shut the phone off. And for the first time since the lie began, he wept, not for being caught, not for losing everything, but for who he'd chosen to become, and the sister who'd chosen something else. The grass was still wet with morning dew when Camilla stepped out of the car. The cemetery was quiet, so quiet it felt almost sacred. The kind of silence that didn't need to be earned, only respected. Seattle's early spring air hung in the trees, cool and gentle, as if trying to soothe the ache in the earth. She spotted him before he saw her. Her father kneeling beside a small headstone, his jacket sleeves rolled up, hands covered in soil and damp leaves. He was trimming the overgrown grass around the grave, his movements slow but precise. This wasn't a routine. This was reverence. Camilla walked closer, careful not to interrupt the stillness. When she finally stood beside him, he glanced up surprised, but not displeased. "I wasn't expecting you," he said. "I wasn't expecting to come." They stood in silence for a beat, looking down at the grave. The stone was simple, weathered, but the name was still clear. Margaret Lynn Holloway, beloved mother, fierce soul, 1939-2007. My grandmother, Camilla whispered. "She raised me better than I raised you," her father said quietly. "That's why I come here." Camilla crouched beside him. "You did what you could. I could have done more." He wiped his brow with a handkerchief, then settled onto the ground beside her. She used to say, "If you feel the world breaking under your feet, dig deeper. You'll find your roots." Camilla didn't reply. She just sat there, letting the words sink into her spine. They stayed like that for a while, the kind of silence that doesn't rush to be filled, the kind that only two people who've been hurt by the same person can share. Then he spoke again. "I'm leaving your mother," he said. Camilla blinked. "I've filed for legal separation. I haven't told her yet. I wanted you to know first." Camilla looked at him, unsure what to say. "She's been drowning for years," he continued, "and I kept throwing her lifelines made of excuses. I told myself I was doing it for the family, for peace. But peace built on silence isn't peace, it's hostage-taking." Camilla felt her chest tighten. "She'll fight it," he said. "She'll blame you. She might even hate me. But I need you to know, I see you now. I see what you've carried, what you've survived." Tears blurred her vision. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." Camilla reached for his hand. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. He just held it firm, grounded, trembling slightly. "I'm proud of you," he said. And with those 4 words, something in her cracked. But it wasn't pain this time. It was release. That same week, Camilla walked into a brick building in downtown Seattle with no signage, just a soft blue door and the number 147 printed in brass. Inside, the walls were warm beige, the lighting soft, the air calm. She was met by a woman named Leona, early 50s, silver-streaked braids, and a voice like a song remembered from childhood. "You're here for intake?" Leona asked. Camilla nodded. 30 minutes later, she sat in a small therapy room, legs crossed tightly, palm sweaty eyes fixed on a corner of the ceiling. She didn't know what to say. So the therapist spoke first. What would feel safest to start with? Camilla looked down. "My name is Camilla," she said slowly. "And I don't know how to be angry without hating myself for it." There it was, the truth. Not the headlines, not the contracts, not the betrayals, just that one thread unraveling. The therapist didn't rush to reply, just nodded. "Would it be okay?" she asked gently. "If we explored what makes you think that?" Camilla nodded. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like a fraud for needing help. Week after week, she returned. Some days she talked, other days she cried. Occasionally, she just sat in silence, tracing the patterns on the carpet until the hour ended. But slowly, painfully, something began to shift. The rage that had once gripped her throat started to loosen. The shame that had crawled into her bones began to melt. And in its place, space. Not joy. Not yet. But space. To feel. To breathe. To choose differently. Her voice, once so sharp with anger, began to soften. Her narration of the story started to change. From, "They ruined me," to "I survived them." From "I can't trust anyone" to "I'm learning to trust myself." From "I hate her" to "She was broken before she broke me." It was during one of those therapy sessions that Leona handed her a brochure. A nonprofit, Safe Nest Financial Advocacy, a grassroots organization dedicated to helping victims of intrafamily financial abuse. They offered counseling, legal referrals, credit repair, and community support. "They're looking for volunteer consultants," Leona said. "I thought of you." Camilla took the brochure but didn't open it. "I'm not sure I'm ready to help anyone." "You already are," Leona replied, "just by existing." That night, Camilla sat on her balcony, brochure in hand, the city humming below her like a song without lyrics. She thought about Ava, about Mateo, about every anonymous email she'd received from strangers who had survived similar betrayals, and she opened her laptop, typed out a simple message. Hi, my name is Camilla Bennett. I have a background in finance and personal experience with family-based financial abuse. I'd like to help quietly for now. She hit send. The next morning they replied, "We'd be honored." And just like that, she began again. Not as the woman who'd been betrayed, but as the woman who chose what came next. She hadn't seen him in nearly 3 months. The last time Eli stood in front of her door, he had walked away with his pride held high and his shame buried deep. But today he didn't knock like someone trying to assert himself. He knocked like someone asking permission to breathe. It was late afternoon. The sun was beginning to retreat behind the Seattle skyline, casting a golden filter through the frosted windows of Camilla's apartment. She was at her kitchen counter placing oranges into a bowl when the knock came 3 quiet taps, uncertain like a ghost remembering how to live. She froze, then slowly walked to the door. When she opened it, she didn't speak. Neither did he. Eli stood there not as the brash boy with a rented BMW and cryptocurrency fantasies, but as a man who had watched the world crumble from his own making. He looked older somehow, or maybe just honest. "Hi," he said, his voice rough, low. Camilla studied him. He was thinner, paler. His hoodie hung looser than before. His hair wasn't styled, it was honest. His eyes, once filled with defiance, now held something else, something fragile. She didn't move aside. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he added quickly. She raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you here?" He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small folder. Worn edges, no branding, just paperwork creased and fingerprinted. "I found some crypto I hadn't cashed out," he said. "One of the guys from the old group refunded what he stole. I didn't want to touch it. So I converted it, cleaned the record, and transferred it into your foundation." He handed over the printed receipt. Camilla took it. Eyes scanning the numbers, the transaction was real. The amount wasn't massive, but it was honest money. No manipulation, no backdoors. Just returned. "I sent it anonymously," Eli said, "but I figured you deserved to know." Camilla folded the paper, her movements slow, calculated. She looked at him, not just the shell, but the soul. He had changed. But change didn't erase consequence. "You didn't have to come," she said. "I did," he replied, "because I needed to look you in the eye." Camilla didn't invite him in, but she stepped out, pulling the door closed behind her. They stood in the hallway beneath the dim light of an old fixture surrounded by the faint scent of lavender and thyme. "You think that fixes what you did?" she asked. "No," he said immediately. "I don't think it fixes anything." She waited. "I don't expect forgiveness," Eli said. "I just wanted to try and be someone who doesn't run." Camilla crossed her arms. Her tone wasn't cruel, but it wasn't soft either. "Why now?" Eli exhaled. "Because I hit a point," he said. "One night I was sleeping in a friend's garage and it hit me I've never earned the life I kept pretending I deserved." He looked up at her. "And I remembered what you said. At the house. About not calling the cops. About making it right in another way." Camilla tilted her head. "You think that was a pass?" "No," he replied. "I think that was mercy. And mercy is heavier than punishment because you carry it every day." Camilla didn't speak. Her heart beat louder than she wanted it to. She hated how much his words resonated. Hated that she could see the boy who used to chase her down the hallway on Christmas morning inside this man who once betrayed everything she stood for. Eli's voice softened. "I'm not asking to be your brother again," he said. "I just don't want to be the villain in my own story anymore." That hit her, because she knew that feeling all too well. There was a long pause. The hallway felt like a confessional booth without pews. "I watched the hospital press conference last week," Eli continued. "The one where they announced you'd saved over 30 kids through the foundation." Camilla looked away. "You never told anyone it was your money. It wasn't," she said. "It was theirs. I just rerouted the betrayal into something useful." Eli chuckled softly. "You always had a way of turning garbage into gold." She finally met his eyes. "You know what I'm most angry about?" she asked. He shook his head. "That you made me doubt myself. For a while, I thought I was wrong to be cautious. Wrong to feel like something was off. You didn't just steal money, Eli. You stole clarity. And that's harder to get back." Eli nodded. "I know. I don't need an apology," she said. "I need evidence." He blinked. "Evidence that you've changed." Camilla unfolded the paper again, looked at the transaction ID, memorized it. "Don't come back here with flowers or sob stories," she said. "Don't ask me to forget. Just live different. Prove that you're not the same person who stood in my kitchen and lied." She handed the paper back. Eli took it, hands trembling slightly. She took a breath, one that felt like the beginning of something new. Not forgiveness, not absolution, just a door, slightly ajar. I'll be watching, she said. Eli gave a faint smile. That's fair. He turned to go, paused, then looked back. Thank you, he said, for not destroying me when you could. Camilla didn't respond, but she didn't close the door either. And in that silence, there was grace. The call came just after dusk. Camila was folding laundry, mundane, quiet, peaceful, when her phone buzzed. The name that appeared on the screen hadn't lit up her phone in weeks. She stared at it for a full 10 seconds before answering. Camilla, her mother's voice cracked on the first syllable. Camila didn't say anything. They kicked me out, the voice continued. Your father's lawyer served me papers. The condo's under his name. I have nothing now. Not even the coin group wants to speak to me. More silence. I just want to see you. One time, just to say goodbye. Camilla waited a breath, then another, where she finally asked. There was a long pause. Madrona Park. Tomorrow. Noon. The next day was gray. Not rainy, just overcast in that stubborn Seattle way that made everything feel suspended like the sky was holding its breath. Camilla arrived first. She wore a dark coat, no makeup, a scarf tied around her neck. Her hair was pulled back like armor. She chose a bench that overlooked the lake. Sparse trees, brittle from the season, rustled faintly in the wind. She didn't check her phone. She didn't bring music. She just sat. At 12:03, her mother appeared. She looked smaller, not physically, but energetically. Like a balloon that had deflated and wasn't sure if it deserved air again. Her clothes were neat but worn, her eyes red, not from vanity but from sleepless nights and invisible wars. She walked slowly. Camila didn't stand. When her mother reached the bench, she asked, May, I? Camila gestured to the empty space beside her. They sat. For a moment, the only sound was the rustling leaves and the occasional shout of children playing in the distance. Then her mother spoke. When I was 22, I was pregnant with you and living in a one-bedroom apartment behind a gas station. Your father was working night shifts at the port. We had nothing but debt and pride. Camilla stared forward. I remember feeding you powdered milk because formula was too expensive. I remember crying in the shower every night because I didn't know if we'd make it to the next paycheck. Camilla said nothing. And then Eli came. And all I heard from your father's side was, you got your son. Make him a success. Suddenly, everything I did, it was about getting Eli ahead. Tutors, private sports leagues, connections. I made it my religion. And somewhere along the way, she trailed off. Camilla turned her head just slightly. I stopped seeing you, her mother finished. You were the strong one, the capable one, the quiet achiever. So I leaned harder, because I thought you could carry it. Camilla's voice was soft but sharp. I wasn't born to be your financial plan. Her mother blinked. I know that now. Camilla's jaw clenched. You could have come to me with truth, and I might have helped anyway. Her mother lowered her gaze. But you didn't. Camilla continued. You turned my compassion into a target, my generosity into a currency. I was scared, her mother said, voice trembling. You were greedy, Camilla corrected. Her mother looked away, tears already forming. I'm not perfect, she whispered. Camilla let out a hollow laugh. I never asked for perfect, she said. I would have settled for honest, or decent, or even just silent. Her mother wiped her face, shoulders curled inward. I was trying to keep this family afloat. You were trying to control the narrative, Camilla shot back. And when it didn't go your way, you drowned me in it. The wind picked up, brushing fallen leaves against their feet. I've lost everything, her mother said. No, Camilla corrected again. You've lost control. There's a difference. They sat in silence. A jogger passed by, nodding politely. Children's laughter echoed from the swings in the distance. Camilla reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a paper bag. Inside, still warm, was a sandwich, crusty bread, melted cheese, thin-sliced turkey, and fresh basil. Not extravagant, not expensive, but made that morning with intention. She handed it to her mother without a word. Her mother stared at it, unsure. Camilla stood. I don't hate you, she said. But I don't owe you either. Her mother's lips parted slightly, a protest forming, but she didn't voice it. You don't have to fix the past, Camilla continued. But don't keep rewriting it. And don't turn me into some living wallet to fund your guilt. Her mother gripped the paper bag. Camilla took one last look at her, the woman who gave her life, and in many ways tried to live off of it. I'm not here to punish you, she said. I'm here to stop being your apology. Then she turned, walked away, didn't look back. And in the cool silence of the gray Seattle park, her mother sat alone, hands wrapped around a sandwich she hadn't expected. A gesture she didn't earn, but maybe, just maybe, deserved one final time. Not forgiveness, but closure. The classroom was modest. 4 rows of secondhand desks, a whiteboard with faded marker stains, and posters of inspirational quotes taped unevenly to the walls. But to Camilla, it was cathedral enough. The women in front of her, some in their 20s, some in their 60s, all shared the same look. Not of weakness, but of fatigue. The kind of exhaustion that came not from work, but from betrayal by the people who were supposed to protect them. Camilla stood at the front holding a worn marker. The air smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. She smiled. "I'm not here to teach you how to get rich," she began. "I'm here to remind you that money is just a tool, a lever. And no one, especially not someone who claims to love you, should ever use that lever to silence you." A few women nodded. She wrote 2 words on the board: agency and accountability. "This class," Camilla continued, "is about reclaiming both." She paused. "Let the words land. Money doesn't measure love," she said softly. "Don't let it define your worth. Or your family's." Outside, the sky had begun to warm. Spring was crawling into Seattle's bones. For the first time in months, the air felt like invitation, not resistance. At the hospital across town, 2 children were prepped for surgery, each scheduled for a life-saving bone marrow transplant. The nurse looked down at the paperwork. Under the funding source column, a single phrase: Phoenix Hope Foundation. Camilla never signed her name on those donations. She didn't need to. Her fingerprints were in the healed lives, not in the headlines. The doctor overseeing the transplant looked at the calendar. 2 surgeries, 1 chance for each. He whispered a prayer under his breath. Not for glory, but for stillness, for clean marrow, and for second chances. In a quiet suburb 30 minutes outside the city, Camilla's father sat at a small kitchen table. He had taken up writing letters, not emails, not text messages. Actual letters, on yellow paper, with a fountain pen. He wrote one every week to Camilla, most of them just a page or 2. Sometimes about his garden. Sometimes about books he was reading. Once a letter entirely about the birds that kept nesting under his gutter. He never expected a reply. That wasn't the point. The point was to make sure she never again questioned whether she mattered. He had started therapy too, late in life. But he went, and he listened. And when the therapist said, "You abandoned your daughter emotionally," he didn't flinch. He wrote it down. Because healing wasn't about being right, it was about being reachable. At a gas station off Rainier Avenue, Eli wiped his hands on a rag and handed keys back to a customer. The car was a junker 2004 Corolla with a bad ignition, but he had fixed it. Not for glory, just for the $60. The customer nodded. "You're good at this," he said. Eli shrugged. "I'm getting better." Later that night, he clocked out. His shift ended at 10:00 p.m. He walked 3 blocks, took a bus, then another transfer, and finally arrived at the community college. He sat at the back of a night class titled Introduction to Personal Finance. The professor, a woman in her 60s, asked the class why most people avoid budgeting. Eli raised his hand. "Because if you put it down on paper, you have to face it. And most people are scared of facing the mess." The professor smiled. "That's a good answer." Eli looked down at his notebook. He had underlined something earlier: net worth is not self-worth. He stared at it for a while, and for the first time in years, he believed it. Camilla sat on her porch that weekend. A small townhouse, humble but hers. She had traded in her condo for something quieter, simpler. Somewhere healing didn't echo so loudly. Her cat Oliver curled at her feet. She held a letter from her father. It smelled like ink and lavender. He had included a pressed flower. He always did that now. Inside, a single line caught her attention. "You didn't save this family, but you saved its future." She folded the letter and placed it back in its envelope, pressed it to her chest. She wasn't whole, but she wasn't hollow either. She had learned that peace wasn't a prize, it was a practice. Seattle held its breath at sunset. The sky wore a robe of fire orange and lavender brushing over the harbor, painting glass buildings in strokes of forgiveness. The city moved slower now, as if aware of the moment it was hosting, like it knew something had ended and something else had just begun. Camilla walked alone across the Fremont Bridge. Her boots hit the metal grating in steady, thoughtful steps, one hand in her coat pocket, the other free to trace the wind. Her hair caught the breeze just enough to remind her she was no longer in hiding. Below, the water shimmered. Boats coasted silently. A lone paddleboarder drifted in the shadows. She didn't look down. She didn't need to. She had already done that, months of staring into the deep, asking questions about trust, blood, betrayal, silence. The abyss had looked back at her, and she didn't blink. Now she walked forward, not quickly, not triumphantly, but freely. Her phone buzzed once. She ignored it. She didn't need updates, not tonight. Not from the foundation, not from the class roster, not from her father's pen or even Eli's timid attempts at reconnection. Tonight she wasn't a daughter, She wasn't a sister, she was just a woman. Whole. Her pace slowed as she reached the center of the bridge. She stopped there just for a breath, just to feel. Behind her, the road hummed with quiet cars. Ahead, the sun dipped lower gold, folding into indigo. She closed her eyes and finally exhaled. The city wasn't quieter than usual, but she was. She had said her words, fought her battles, signed her peace. In her coat pocket was nothing of value, no wallet, no receipts, no emergency card. Just a wrapper from the granola bar she'd eaten on the walk over. That was fine. Camilla didn't need symbols anymore. She had become her own. She looked up past the horizon, past the burnished skyline, past everything she'd ever thought she'd need to become. And with a voice calm, certain, unwavering, she told the air what she had been waiting to say. I don't have a mother. I don't have the brother I used to, but I have myself. And that has been the most profitable investment of my life. She smiled not with victory, but with release, and stepped off the bridge, not into darkness, but into everything else. Everything that still waited to be written. Everything that would, from this point on, bear her name alone.